Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Tom Bentey Media Podcast. We are speaking live here at Bellworks at the Shared Universe Podcast Studio. And with me today is my esteemed guest, Craig Siracusa. I've known Craig last year, so just to give some insight, he brought me on a project, and I got to film an interview between two MLB legends, Darryl Strawberry and Mariano Rivera, which was awesome. So I'm forever indebted to Craig. And he has a new film out on Amazon Prime that I got to check out called Omerta, The Act of Silence. It's a very powerful film about mafia life in Brooklyn. So I wanted to bring Craig on here to really just talk about the film, and we're going to see where this conversation goes. He's a very interesting guy, a very nice guy, and I'm really happy he's here.
Well, thank you. You set the bar pretty high. The best thing about coming to Bellworks is that my office is right across the hall, so I didn't have to sit in traffic. But thank you, Tom, and I appreciate it. And you did a wonderful job working with Mariano Rivera and Darryl Strawberry, and that was right at the height of COVID. So it was hard to even put that together, and you did a phenomenal job, you and your team. So I do recommend people use Tom Bentey, right? Not Bentley.
Yeah,
Bentey.
Suburbanite Productions.
Suburbanite, yes. He gives me a commission of 10%. So. But thank you, Tom. I appreciate it, especially being here at Bellworks.
Cool. Thanks so much, Craig. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Omerta? Very powerful film.
Thank you.
Really cool. I highly recommend everyone checking it out on Amazon Prime, probably on other platforms as well. But tell us all about it.
Thank you. I mean, so the movie's on multiple platforms: Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, and give a shout out to MVD who's distributing the film. So I did that film. It was funny, actually. Now that I think about it, when I was at school, right? So one of my final projects was doing a short film. It was called "Making of a Don." And it was about experiencing the mafia in Bensonhurst, growing up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. So I wrote the short. We shot on 16 millimeter. And I remember doing the edit. And it was like that old-fashioned edit where you're cutting in all that. And then years later, I wrote a script. I was in Texas filming another movie called Cake, to a good friend of mine, Will Wallace. We were filming that, and I wrote a script. And then I wound up leaving the script in the hotel because I used to handwrite. I wasn't typing back then. And I left the script there. And then years later, I got the courage to rewrite the script. I did a lot of research, read tons of books on the mafia. I grew up in Bensonhurst, so I had some of that life experience growing up in a community that was run by the mafia, as we would say. So I had that life experience. I've seen all the movies, but there was something unique that I wanted to write. I wanted to write more about the truth and what happens when you follow the mafia and what the outcome is or was. Because remember, I grew up in a neighborhood that was controlled by the mafia, and I saw what happened when they all went to jail, when the RICO law came in action, when people came out of jail. So a lot of these movies, Goodfellas is a good one, but at the end, he's still free. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the real experience. Maybe he was depressed, but to see what happened and the wake of what happened when they left the neighborhood and the people and the silence and the omerta and all this manipulation that I experienced and I read about, I said, I have to do a movie about this. And I wanted to show when they actually are sort of inducted into the mafia, which I did a lot of research on. And to me, that was such a powerful scene that I would hold a card of Mary, right, and make an oath and then burn it. And I said to myself, that's sort of sacrilegious in the sense. And I always wanted to really explore that and to show and writing it. I remember, I was going to use my family's last name, Garbino. And I said, no, I'm going to go for it. And I was afraid even writing it. And I wound up reaching out to Philip Carlo, who passed away, who was a wonderful man. And he wrote the Iceman Gas Pipe. He did stories, sat down with, Iceman in jail. I mean, this guy's a legend. And I became friendly with him, and he sent me his memoirs, and he helped me a little bit, coached me a little bit, and he passed away years ago. But I wrote the script, and we were able to finance it. And, I did work with Paulie Malignaggi, who's the world champion boxer at the time, 3-time, and Joe D'Onofrio, and it all started to come together. And I said, we're going to film it. And then as I'm working on it, the script is done. I wrote the script, and I worked at Entertainment Tonight at the time. So I got a lot of people there to help me. And I could just see God was just like, planting the seed and sort of blessing the project. And it all came together, and we started shooting. But I started to get nervous too about doing the film. And I had guys with me just in case, as we would shoot, something might happen, because I was concerned. And as we were filming, the film was just phenomenal. And it was funny. One of the scenes we shot at a cafe, and 2 weeks later, the cafe became a nail salon. And in the film, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I created this nail salon. And it wasn't Me, it was just the reality of the neighborhood. It was changing so dramatically. And then the main star goes to jail when I don't want to give away the film, but when he comes back, it's very different from what he was told. And the film shows the inner workings and the dialogue I'm proud of because it's true. A lot of the stuff and a lot of what I wrote about was either what I experienced, what I saw, what I read about, what I knew. And I wasn't afraid to be honest. And the end of the film, I like to consider it a faith-based film in certain circles. And I always say the same thing. It's either going to fail or succeed. And I've created thousands of hours of content, faith-based content, documentaries. And this film is unique because it reaches an audience that most of the films and documentaries and shows that I've created don't. There's an audience like me that is really searching for something more than what society says, more than the Rolex and all that. It's just about really like, what is the truth? And this film really talks about how you could be a criminal, a sinner, lost. It doesn't matter. That in the end, the only thing that truly matters is for me is a relationship with Christ. And this guy goes through it all. And in the end, he realizes he was manipulated and he needs redemption, right? The convictions keep us up at night. He needed to clean his soul. And he found sort of the way of redemption was being truthful and honest about his life. And he tells his story in flashbacks. And I'm proud of the film. I look back now and I say, could I do that film again? And I don't think so. I'm a different person now. But how it all worked out together. And Paulie, is traveling, and Joe and all these people aren't. One of the main characters unfortunately passed away. Joe Estevez in it. We got amazing soundtrack from Raekwon and they gave us amazing music. Like Echo was part of the film, the clothing brand. Like everyone just stepped up. Dead or Alive, another clothing company, and everyone was just there, wanted to believe in the project. And I'm grateful for that. And I look back and I like I said, it's either going to fail or succeed. But in the end, if I plant one seed, if somebody watches that film and says, I would never watch a faith-based film or watch a Christian film or whatever, they watch that and say, man, I might not believe in God or a higher power, but, I'm searching for something more than just, what society says is important or success. So I'm hoping to plant that seed.
Yeah, I mean, there was just some really powerful scenes in the film. I particularly liked just his interactions with the priest. I mean, here's a guy who committed some really bad things in his life, and there's still hope. There's still redemption. There's still forgiveness. There's still a path forward. And even though this guy is not, the best guy in the world, you still feel empathy for him because you see that he really understands what he did was wrong, and he's looking for the truth. He's looking to progress with his life, which I think is really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, Joe Estevez played a wonderful priest. Joe Estevez is a great friend of mine. Martin Sheen's brother. I mean, I know the family very well, and he just really just grabbed that role. And Paulie, he did like one thing. It was funny. As a kid, we were all actors. Probably all of us. You are as well. And he went up for a role, and I went up for it, and he wound up getting it. It was to play, I think it was like Nintendo, the Punch-Out game, right? He played like whatever the main character is. So he really didn't have a lot of acting experience. And the first day we're in church, and when he's holding St. Michael, the rosary beads, and he starts to cry, and I would talk to him about emotional preparation, what I learned in school, and how to pull up those emotions and display them. And this guy, beats people up for a living. I mean, he's a boxer, right? I mean, this is what his job is, to not show emotion, and he was able to tap into those emotions the first day. And I said, this kid's got a gift. To be able to tap into that, first of all, is hard, especially when you got to do it 6-7 times. I mean, you're talking about in front of 50 people, to be able to get that emotion and nail it. And just, it was great. So I always say to him, like, dude, you have a skill and I think if people recognize that the same way I did, Paulie has an amazing career, but also the film could do even better than we're intending it to do, because he's got something that he's able to tap into, and it's just something to watch.
Yeah, I mean, all the performances were really great, in my opinion. Main characters, the supporting characters, the priest, I thought was awesome. Just some really great performances all around, and a really solid story as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was something that also too, like we didn't have a huge budget. It was a SAG film, so. They were expecting residuals, of course, but, we didn't have a huge budget, and, we were filming and, so it was hard to get people, but, I had a list and I went after them, and like I said, a lot of people helped me. It wasn't just me, calling, but I had relationships with a lot of them. The Joe D'Onofrios and a lot of people in the movie really wanted to be a part of it, and I appreciate that. I'm really grateful. And for me, a lot of the people that were in the film, I continuously work with. Like that's something that I learned growing up in Bensonhurst was really about loyalty. About friendships that go way beyond just one project. I mean, the guy Anthony Mangano, who's a dear friend who just had a stroke, and I know he's probably listening, but we did that film together, and I still work with him, and I created television shows for him. And Gaetano, who was in my original short film in school, right? He's in that movie. You're talking about 15 years later. So and I still talk to them. Caesar and all these people in the movie are my family, are friends. So I never forget, that they took a chance on me, and I continuously work with them. And I will continuously work with them. Joe Estevez, 20 years I've been working with Joe. We did Cake together in 2002, and I've been to his house and his wife and Martin's house. And that's, to me, he's family. So everyone I work with, I always continuously work with them. And no matter what project I'm working on, I always try to get them involved. Always.
Can you tell us a little bit about actually making the film, like being on set? I mean, there's a lot of independent filmmakers out there, whether they're in school or they finally raise the money to make their short film or feature film. You were on set, Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, for the most part. What was that process like? How did you prepare for it? And can you tell us or give people advice that are looking to make independent films? Like, how can we do it the most effective way?
Well, that's a good question. So, it's changed a lot, right? When I was a kid and you were a kid, we're so old. If you knew someone that made a movie, you would talk about him in the community. Oh my God, he made a movie. It was impossible to make something, right? So I was at the cusp of it was impossible, but we could do it. It was when SLR cameras started to become popular. But I've read tons of scripts and people, and I think the first thing is write about what you know, which we all know. Martin Scorsese, you talk about that. Write about what you know, but also write about what you have access to. So if I don't have access to something, right, I'm not going to write it in the script. I read a script years ago about a bank robbery and all this, and cars flipping and blowing up. And I'm like, first time filmmaker, maybe not, you're going to get it. So it's great to really aim for the stars, but write about what you know. And for me, I grew up as an actor. Then I did set dressing, set design, directing, producing. So I had the aspects of every area of production. So Entertainment Tonight, interviewing, and Law and Order. So I had all those, Local One. I mean, I worked in every aspect of producing, directing, because the way the business is the way I see it it's a giant sort of like Bellworks. There's 1,000 doors, and each door is an opportunity, but also a skill. And you're trying to get to the middle, which is, say, success or whatever you are, Hollywood or whatever you want to be in. You just don't know what door it is. So if I was on set at Entertainment Tonight, I'm in SAG-AFTRA. Hey, you need someone? And it never worked out that way till years later. But Law and Order, hey, I would talk to the director. And by the way, I'm an actor. Even now, if I do location scouting, I rent properties for the location scouts, I say to them, hey, you need an actor? Because I don't know which way he's going to get in. So learn every aspect of the business. You have to be humble. And a lot of the directors or actors, people I meet, they're very, I know this one and that one, and that's great. I know everybody. That means nothing. You have to be humble. You have to remember where you come from and how quickly you could fall. And what I've learned is a lot of the, I don't want to say B actors, but the ones that have not much to lose in the sense of, for me, were very arrogant. And the ones that are so successful, the A-list, they're so humble and they want to help. And the ones that are have this macho, bravado were hard for me to work with. But I would go after the biggest people, and I still do. So I would go after big names. We did it through SAG. We had to do it through SAG because I didn't want anything to come back, and I wanted a legitimate film. I learned every aspect of it. I was humble. I mean, we were cleaning toilets and doing set pieces and building sets on our own because we had the experience. My mom was helping. I mean, my brother, everybody helped. And I went after all locations that I had access to. It was really being on set and then just working with everyone. And I worked on movies, and the director would sit there with his hat on, and he was all Mr. Cool because he had this persona he was creating. And me, I'm not like that. I'm there with you. I'm helping, I'm picking up things. I'm the guy because you're there helping me. So I never, even now, if I direct or produce something, I'm in the weeds with you, because I know how quickly I can go back. and how quick and how hard it is to get there. And I always try to talk to people and bring them in and help them and mentor them, because it's not a competition. We're all in this together. And I think also too, if you don't have a private or personal agenda, and you're doing it because you want to make a film, you want to make a difference and impact and inspiration, and people see that and it's true, they'll help you. It's when you have this personal agenda that people, and you're sort of mysterious about it and you're not truthful, then people are more like, I don't really know if I want to get involved with that person. And I never burn bridges. I'm always like, I always want to help people. And and always just being truthful. And for me, it's really, the doors have opened up when I really followed my own formula. I've been doing this for 25 years, I think. I'm getting older, and I've never changed, and the opportunities keep coming.
Cool. What are you working on now?
Well, it's interesting. I was just at NRB. Shout out to NRB, which is still going on. I had the opportunity to interview Michael Lindell. Met with a friend, a lot of friends actually, and it's funny when people ask me that. I'm always like, man, what do I tell them? So, I'm doing a lot. One of the biggest things, I have a show actually, Walk in Faith, which I continuously shoot. It's been on for 5 years. I interview right now not as many stars and celebrities because of COVID, everything's being lifted. But, I would cover all the red carpets and all the movies and the events that come out, interview celebrities about their journey of faith and inspiration. And I learned that years ago about the importance of really, focusing on the true person, not the persona. So I have that, which is a podcast TV show, which I'm doing that. A lot of projects, a lot of different, clients I have. But the big thing, we're opening up a new event space in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which was the original Brooklyn Opera House in the 1800s. We just renovated it. It's a phenomenal space. It's right on Berry Street. So that is my new project. We're launching that, I think, in a week or two. I'm just finishing up the not-for-profit and the paperwork, and then we will open up that facility for concerts, premieres, events, and that is a sensational space. And it's called the Emmaus Center, and it's in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So I'm building that, and I'm taking all of my relationships, connections, and friends and putting it all into this one building where I'll do TV shows, events, and we'll make it into something that I think has never been seen before in that area. And the idea is to build a model that I can take and then, sort of manufacture in other areas. But this is something that it's a huge facility. And when we launch it in a week or two, it's going to really awaken that neighborhood.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw some pictures before. Congrats on that. I can't wait to check it out. I hope to have some screenings there myself.
Oh, you're more than welcome to.
Great. I want to talk a little bit about just the state of the industry right now. You're a very interesting guy. I got a lot of cool takes on it. You're heavily involved in a lot of Christian-based productions. Where do you think the industry is going in terms of media? You have a lot of these independent creators coming up. You have established legacy brands, and they're kind of losing a little bit of their clout. What's your take on the whole media landscape 2020 and beyond?
I think there'll be a lot more platforms. We were years ago dealing with streaming platforms. I still deal with some of them now. And I think that market is completely saturated. I think of it, and we spoke about it off camera. It's like, if I'm not willing to support it or purchase it or, stream it, why would anyone else? Like, we're the market. We're always wondering, like, who the market? We're the market. Where are the consumers? So I think the streaming platforms, I think they're a lot easier to attain. But I'm running a TV station for 10 years and dealing with platforms now, it's very difficult to keep the subscription base, to fill up the content, to get content, to make original content. The Netflix model is the model, the Amazon. I think it's easy to do $50,000 and create my own platform. I could do it on YouTube, but can you sustain the subscription base? No. Can you get the advertisers? No. If you stay to the mission, let's say it's faith-based, or if it's comic books, at some point you have to go left or right or via to get other content, original content. So therefore, the mission or the intent of the platform is gone. And that's why you see Disney and all them, they merge, and there's so many different genres. You're not casting your net wide enough. So I think the streaming platform will change. And then they'll add commercials, which they do, Hulu, but I think that model needs to change at some point. It will, whether it's like an HBO Max or what. Creating content for me, I like to create inspiration, faith-based content. That's the market that I like. It's very challenging, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like it. I was in the secular world for a long time. I still do projects in the secular world, but I've gravitated towards faith-based because of my own personal life, but also because it's a challenge, extremely difficult to get content out there and to be successful and to monetize it. But I think that's also a market that is underserved. And I think a lot of the content that is created for that demo is very specific and it's the same. So what I offer, even with the events, is a little bit different, is the audience that is more like me, that is looking for something interesting to watch. And I did a documentary, was it 2 years ago, called Ring of Faith, which was up for an Emmy. And it's about boxing. Is boxing a sin? And what was a weird question that is boxing a sin? It's a violent sport. But if you talk about it and find the faith element in that we're all together and we're all the same, regardless of what we believe, we're all united as brothers and sisters through boxing. Now I can get you to watch the film because you like boxing. And all of a sudden I'm planting a seed of inspiration and hope. And people go, man, I would have never thought that. And that's what I think the audience that is missing. And that's what I target. The people that want to watch a good film or a documentary or a show that aren't being served, but there's a whole market out there. So that's what I gravitate towards and will continuously gravitate towards.
Cool. And you got a lot of stuff going on, just like myself. You're working.
You got a million things going on.
You're working in Brooklyn. You're doing different productions. I'm always interested in learning about people's workflow, how they stay productive. What's your mentality when it comes to, and some advice you can give the audience members in terms of being productive and getting the most done and being the most efficient?
Well, it's interesting because COVID was, now it's like we're all adjusting, right? So prior to COVID, I would get up really early, which I don't advise. I really don't. And I mean, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I always have this mentality of there's always someone working harder than you. And I would think that, and I live off of caffeine. Like I'm drinking double espresso, triple, and I'm looking for a Red Bull already, right? I'm tired. And so before COVID, I was traveling and killing myself. And I knew I was really taking a toll on my body. I was traveling around the country, filming a show, doing my show, business. I mean, all these things. So COVID really grounded me. And I said, okay, I got to think about how I use my time. And that sometimes not every opportunity is the right opportunity. So you have to cut things out. And I'm very conscious now about my time. Like traveling to Brooklyn a couple of days a week is a commitment, but I'm okay with that. Right now I have probably 4 or 5 projects on top of, my full-time job, on top of my show, and I take more and more on. It's very stressful. I just was in Texas and this woman said, like, how do you balance this all? And I said, it's juggling. You drop a few balls, but you try to keep a few in the air, but it's really focused. So what I do, like you and I just spoke and you said, man, I go surfing. I don't do anything, nothing. So like I go to the gym and I work and I hang out with my family, of course, but I don't have any hobbies. There's no like surfing. There's no bike riding. There's none of that. So like the sacrifice or commitment. And like when I was in Texas, you have to be so like strict with yourself. Like I was like, okay, if I do this, is this really a sacrifice or am I doing something for myself? And I have to make a decision like, that's not really why I'm here. I'm here to network. I'm here to whatever, bring business. So I'm very structured on what I do. And the weekends I try to, enjoy myself, but I'm in school, I'm like, I'm doing 9 things at the same time and I'm looking for more and more and more. And if I'm sitting around, I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. That sweat and that feeling that I get of just like going at it is something that I love. It's like a drug. I'm like after it. So I'll pile up things when I'm not busy to where I have to do it all in one day. So I get that feeling. And it's like, for me, it's infectious. I search for that. It makes me feel alive. But look, you got to do a lot of things. And if you look at anyone that's successful, not the Amazon videos and these people that say, oh, you can make $1 million sitting at home, because that's all like, a pyramid scam. The people that are successful, they itemize their time. How much time do I spend? What am I doing with that time? And literally, if I'm wasting time or if I'm not doing something that's bringing me to my goal, I don't do it. So you have to take an inventory of what you do every day. Like if it's not part of getting to where I got to go, I don't do it. That's relationships, that's music, that's movies. What movie do I watch? Ask me. Only documentaries. My whole life consists of watching documentaries. If I'm not learning something, I don't watch it. Right?
Yeah, but you're learning. So when you watch a narrative film, I watch
to learn,
right. to learn and to be entertained and to see what's going on and to have those stories influence your creative approach as
You're
well.
right. You're right. For me, though, I don't watch them. I watch very few. But you are right. I don't want to you're totally right about that. But everything I do is really about whatever the goal is. The books I read, everything is all about getting me to that next stage. Not about, I don't think entertainment as much as, learning something. But you're right. Narrative films, you do. There are some that I do watch that I do walk away with saying, but like certain things it's really a regulated schedule. That's really what I do.
Yeah, for me, it's the same thing. I do need the time to go to the gym. I definitely prioritize that during the week. And then on the weekends, I do need the time to go surfing.
Right?
And
I want
bike
to hang out with
riding.
you.
But that's generally only on the weekends. During the week, it's very regimented. I'm in bed probably by 9 o'clock. I'm up by 5.
Same.
And just trying to be healthy and stay as productive as I can. And I try to outline what I'm going to do each day. When you have your own company, when you're doing your own thing, you really have to stay busy and you have to prioritize what you're focused on. And I think a lot of people you hear, like in my experience, like, what are you doing like Saturday night? You want to grab dinner, and they're busy. And yet you see on like a Tuesday night, they're, getting drunk or something. And that's not productive in my opinion. So it's about keeping the time on the stress relief time to really rejuvenate you to get ready for those during the week.
You're completely right. I mean, and like, you're doing 1,000 things at once. I mean, you have your company, teaching. I mean, you have TV shows. I mean, you know what it's like. And I think when people look at that life, like the way you're up early, and then they can look at their own life and say, well, they shouldn't question like, why am I not succeeding? Right? If you're not spending the time, investing the time, I mean, that's why, right? You have to invest time into this. This is a lifestyle, right? I mean, how long have you been doing this? 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like, I remember as a kid, I thought in 3 years, I'm going to make it. I'll be famous and rich. And then you realize it's not 3 years. It could be 30 years. It could be 20 years. But if you're committed, you'll keep pushing forward, because you get a little bit more and then a little bit more and a little step and a step, and then it keeps growing. But yeah, it's a lifestyle.
Oh, for sure. And I think I've definitely matured in the last even 10 years since I'm 40 now. When I was 30, I mean, I really enjoyed going out with my friends and partying. And now that doesn't fit into my goals. Like I just see it as kind of a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. I posted on my Instagram just recently. There was a memory that popped up on Facebook. 10 years ago, I was at this famous club here in Belmar, DJ.
Oh, yeah.
And
so I had 10 years ago, yes.
I was drinking and smoking a cigarette. And now I'm like riding my bike there trying to live a healthy lifestyle. But, that maturity came as I got older. And I have no interest in going to DJs or any of these clubs anymore because it's not benefiting my goals. Like, what's the point? It's keeping me away from what I really want to do in life. The truth, like, being productive, like all that to me now at 40 is just a complete waste of time.
You're
but
right.
30, and I look at people, I have friends that are younger and it's like, hey, what are they doing? It's like they're doing what I was doing 10 years ago. And I look at them and I try to kind of recalibrate myself to say, like, don't judge them because you were doing the same exact damn thing when you were that age. But it's hard to see because you're in such a different place, but you're still grounded in your goals. You just have a different perspective.
No, you're right. I look at things, think about things 10 years ago. I'm like, man, and I don't regret it either. And I know you don't either. Like, I don't regret going to DJs in those clubs and traveling all over the world because it gave me the life experience and especially where I am now in my life in Korea, like I don't regret any of that. And I think if I didn't do it, I probably would have regretted it, so it's material, it's an experience, it's friendships, it's relationships. But now, like you said, I don't let anything distract me. So I don't know. But I mean, I do know people that are young, like Paulie. I mean, we talked one day and he was at 15, 14, 16. He's like, I never traveled anywhere. He's like, because I made that sacrifice, that commitment to be world champion. I was training while you were in Cancun, so like, I think like, wow, I look back and say, would I have done that at 16? But at the time I thought I was sacrificing a lot and maybe I was, but looking back now, I'm like, man, I traveled a lot. I did a lot of things that like I wouldn't do now, of course. I wouldn't go to DJ, sorry. Like my cousin goes, Sean. He's like the king in DJ. Everyone knows Sean Kulkov. And he's like, shout out to Sean. He's probably there now, but I mean, he's still going. I don't want to say his age, but I don't think I would go.
Yeah, okay. No, not me.
I don't think so. Sorry.
I mean, I definitely like, I spent a lot of time doing all that club stuff. And for me, I don't necessarily regret it, but I feel more comfortable and I feel more at home with kind of this lifestyle that I'm leading now than I did 10 years ago. But everybody's different. I mean, there are people that are in their 40s that are still going to DJs, they're going to Jenks, and they really just love
that.
they love that life. But for me, it's fake. It's like kind of like the movie where it's like you see like it's just the time. There's no substance there, and it can all fall apart.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, to each his own, right? I mean, I don't feel comfortable in places like that, anymore. I have no desire. Like you said, it's a distraction. Plus, too, like at this age, man, you drink. I mean, I like to drink beer and stuff, but the next day you feel it. It's not like as a kid you just roll and go. And then I don't have that same desire, especially to go to the clubs and stuff. Like, yeah, that stage is I'm over that.
Yeah,
definitely past that stage in my career.
Yeah. I want to talk about your earlier career, and you were so nice to come on a Zoom call with me and speak to my students about working at Good Morning America, being a recurring role on Ed. Talk a little bit about that, and if anyone wants to get into that corporate world that you had a big part of, Entertainment Tonight, right, as well.
Yeah. I was fortunate. I started 18 as an actor, right? Doing modeling, acting, got into SAG, I think at 19, and then started working on a show, Ed, which was, I was a kid. We were in the classroom and, I was on that show for a couple of years. We would do extra work, featured scenes, different scenes. I was in the band. Like I did that for about 3 years. And then during that time, I did a lot of commercials and TV shows and independent films, just worked my way up, studied acting all over. I did courses at UCLA, summer programs, NYU. I mean, I was really into it. And then got into Entertainment Tonight, which I thought I just finished school and I thought I was going to be the director as a kid. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the director. I don't know what I was thinking. I was a kid. I didn't really know. I think I was 22. And I showed up and I was a PA. And nobody had told me that. And I was like so surprised when they said, go carry a table, give me a coffee. I'm like, they must have made a mistake here. They didn't see my resume. But I was the best PA ever. I would run. And Frank, who I still talk to, who was my boss, who still works there, I used to run to get coffee and 100 miles an hour and drop the tape off and whatever they wanted. Oh, bright and early. And I was the best. And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting till that would develop into something. But at the same time, I was doing all these other projects and going to school and working and doing documentaries and trying to just get my name out there. And then years later, I had the opportunity to start interviewing people. And that planted the seed of Walk in Faith. And the opportunity came from Canada, where I would do interviews with the Canadian office, which I still do, and the New York office, which I still do, not so much now with COVID. But I mean, the opportunity came, but it was like 15 years later where I was just kept pushing and pushing, and most people would give up. But I had so many things going on at the same time that I would never, first of all, I didn't give up on anything, but I knew if I put in the time and the work, it would come through. So it's the sacrifice and it's really commitment. And no matter what job you have, I would give it 100%. And now if I go back and work, I carry myself like the same way I did when I was the PA. Even if I'm interviewing people or I'm sitting down with a star, and I don't carry myself any different, like I made it, because I know what I went through to get there. And it was a long road, man. I mean, this is a long journey. When I look back at all the opportunities and all the shows and the extra work, I would get called to do extra work and I would say, yep. And that's all I would say. I wouldn't even know where it is, what time, how much the money. Yep. And that was it. So I was there, and on a job as a kid, I would be in front, raising my hand. You need me, I'll do it. And I would do whatever they wanted. I didn't care, but I would build that relationship to where they can count on me. But that's how the doors open, and the doors open. As you elevate, so does everybody else. And they remember that. And as long as it's truthful, and like I said earlier, there's no private personal agenda, like you're trying to manipulate the situation, people remember that. And as they go up, you go up with them.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I've learned throughout the last 20 years. It never stops. Like this mentality, like, oh, I'm just, one day it's going to change. I'm going to make it. It's always, you're always thinking about what's next, always progressing, always about the next project, about building something, about making another relationship. That's what it's about. It never ends.
Oh yeah. That's the misconception that you're going to make it. I mean, I thought too, when I make this movie, make $1 million. And then you make a movie and you see you don't make enough to go out to dinner, and you're like, what the heck going on? I was still in the red. It was in theaters. But like, that's the business, right? Someone's making money. I mean, but yeah, it's not about one. It's about, I do a project and I'm in the middle of it. I'm on the next one. What's next? What's next? Because you can't bathe in your laurels. I have all these awards. Like all my awards are in the basement in a box. My wife does not want them out on the shelf. Like she's like, put them away. My friend Louie gave me a plastic trophy that said Ring of Faith, and he probably paid $6. And I treasure that trophy because he made it for me. The rest of them, the Emmy certificates and all that, they're wonderful, but they're in a box. Because if I focus on that, then I'm missing the point. It's not about what I've accomplished, it's about what's next. How am I going to keep going? Because there's always a story to tell. There's always a film, a documentary, a person to meet, a person to help. And I learned too, it's not always about you. And I think if we focus so much on me, it's not about that. It's about I do a project, and maybe within that project, I'm inspiring or helping someone else's career. And I think about that a lot when I do things. Because if I walk away saying, well, the film didn't make money or the show, nobody watched it, it's about that I plant the seed of inspiration, that I inspire, that I help anyone. Because then you can walk away saying it was a true success. If it's about me, then my agenda, my personal agenda, my motives, they're not truthful. It's about me becoming famous and making money. And I'm like, no, it's not about that. If I wanted to be rich, I wouldn't be in the film business. I mean, you know that. I mean, this is not a business where they dangle the money and the fame and the platform, but are you willing, number one, I'm not willing to sell my soul for that. And number two, that's not really what I want. I rather keep doing what I'm doing, and that's it. I'm happy with the life that I'm living now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very inspirational. I totally recommend everyone checking out your podcast, Walk in Faith, and the film Omerta. And finally, Craig, I want to talk a little bit about you grew up in Brooklyn. Now you're living in Holmdel.
Love it, Holmdel. I gotta get a new t-shirt.
What are the differences? What do you like better? And how did you adapt to Jersey suburban life?
Let me tell you, I love it. I mean, Brooklyn, I was like, what is it? There was a term, I think it's Brooklyn till I die, or Brooklyn Zoo, or one of those things, right? I remember as a kid, I was like, I would never move out of Bensonhurst, forget about it. It was my whatever. And I used to make fun of my family who lived in Jersey. And then I don't even know, the neighborhood changed, and so expensive, and just the traffic and the people. And I think it was when my son Mario was born. It was so noisy, and the buses and the ambulance and the cars and the traffic. I said, I can't do this anymore. I was just getting frustrated. And then we had a pool that, was it wasn't a pop-up. It was like a blow-up pool. And there was all these windows around us. Everyone's looking at us, and this carpet that was a rug. And I'm like, nothing wrong with that. But I said, I don't want this life anymore. My parents own all these houses, so we didn't really have to pay a lot of rent, which was great compared to a mortgage. I mean, And I just said, I had this vision of my son running to me and holding me in my arms in grass. And I focused on that vision every day. And I said, I'm going to buy a house. And I just kept pushing. And I went to go, and I was afraid, like most of us, to make that commitment because I owned property that failed miserably during the recession, lost all my money, horrible situation from investment properties. And I had the vision. I went to a motivational speaker. It was Les Brown, and he said something that clicked. And I said, okay, God, that's why you want me to be here. I called my wife. I said, let's buy a house. And we came to Jersey, and this house we couldn't afford, of course, a pool and all this in Holmdel, which I love. And a couple of months later, the house reduced the price, and we bought it, and I love it. So I went from having a backyard that I could, touch both sides with a blow-up pool to this beautiful house in Holmdel with 1.5 acres of property that I love. And first couple of weeks, I was waiting for that vision or that memory to come to life of Mario running, and it did. And I knew in that moment that this was ordained by God, that this wasn't a coincidence, that it all worked out. And I love Jersey. I still go to Brooklyn to see my parents, and I work in Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn will always have a place in my heart, but it changed a lot. And I think for me, it was time for me to go and experience Holmdel, New Jersey, and just give my son a different life and other opportunities that we didn't have. Because it's all about generational, right? Generational wealth. It's not about, staying at the same level. The point is my parents, they made wealth, they did well for themselves. And then it's my turn to carry that torch and go a little higher and give my son opportunities to where he can go a little higher. And it's about growing, right? Carrying that torch. So I think about just giving him better opportunities than I had, that my parents did the best they could, but try to give him a better opportunity and different experiences and something that it's really important to me, really important. We enrolled him in St. Leo's and in Lincroft, and I'm all for, Catholic education and private school. So we put him in there, and dedicated to the churches. And I love living in New Jersey. And, I mean, the only other place I might move is Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which I love, or Ocean Grove. But besides those two towns, I'm pretty sure we're staying in either Homedale or Colts Neck.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's beautiful out here for sure.
What is it? Is there a saying out here like Homedale? I saw someone had like a shirt, something like Homedale, like it was a rough and tough neighborhood, like Homedale something. I saw someone wear it in the gym. I was like, I don't think it's that rough and tough in Homedale.
No.
I mean, my concerns are deers, ticks, and weeds. That's pretty.
That's
that's
it. Right, yeah.
I know. In Brooklyn, I was like, my car's gonna get robbed, and everyone's gonna get mad in my car, though, my house. I mean, you're always worried about something, right? Here, I'm like, the pool, it's dirty. And it was funny too. Living in Brooklyn, and I tell people this all the time. You don't realize this sense of like you're always on edge. I was always on edge, parking the car, driving. I'm always like, and then you come here and you're relaxed. And you don't realize it till you move. And I think that's just city urban life is you're always like, because there's so many people and it's traffic and you're always the honking, the lights. But when you come here, it's like, it's relaxing. I could sit in my yard and literally just stare at the grass and that's it. And I love it.
You seem like you're very tuned into kind of spirituality and the environment that you're in and how it affects you.
Oh, you do? I mean, that's everything to me. I mean, I've been researching, studying for years, faith, spirituality, because remember, I came from the world of Hollywood, let's say, right? I don't want to say Hollywood, but, and I had to really reflect on why did I want to do that? And for me, it was, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be rich. I wanted all of these possessions that they promised me. I become an actor and be rich and famous and, I'm going to get the girls. And that's what you told me. So then I had to say, well, why do I really want to do that? Because I'm insecure, right? It's an insecurity, right? I'm trying to chase something that's not real. So when I realized that, I said, okay, that's not really what the purpose of this is. And I really started to connect with my faith. And then all of these sort of this awakening happened. And it was a series of events to where now I want to preach that to people and let people know. So it's not about success and money and all that, because in the end, that means nothing, right? True success is, first of all, discovering what your true purpose is. Like, why am I here? It's not to get money. Money just is part of that life, but it comes no matter what. But it's not about money. It's not about fame. It's about serving a purpose. And when you discover that purpose and you really discern or know this is what I'm called to do. And whatever you believe, I don't even believe in a bag of sand. We all have a purpose, right? There's no coincidence we're all here, right? That doesn't work that way. Once you discover that purpose and you go after it and you know it's really what you're called to do, and it could be anything, it could be maintenance work. It's not, or it doesn't matter. When you go after that, everything just opens up. The opportunities come, the relationships, the money, everything you wanted, but you have to stay focused on that purpose. If you start going left and right, it doesn't always work out. And you can see people, I know a lot of people are rich and they're not fulfilled. So just because you have money doesn't mean you're successful. You got to really talk to them. And most of them will say, man, I'm doing stocks and this, I'm not even happy. I have no relation with my family. But when you go after your true purpose, whatever that is, you see all of the doors open. But if it's not truthful, that means nothing. So when I discovered what I was really called to do, which was to use the platform to inspire, to evangelize, to bring people to Christ, whatever you want to say, all these opportunities opened up and they continuously open. And there's times like just yesterday, I said to my wife, man, I got too many things going on. I'm getting stressed out. She's like, maybe you should, cancel one. I said, no, I'll keep doing it. Because sometimes it gets very stressful when you see all these opportunities coming. You're like, how do I juggle all this? But yeah, I am completely into my faith. And I advise people too, latch onto something more than, personal gain or what can I get out of this person? And you'll see there's like this joy that comes, not just happiness, which passes, joy that comes in it. And life just, to me, is just different than it was when I lived in Brooklyn and I lived a different lifestyle.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way for sure.
And it's real, brother. Like, this isn't like I don't put this on for the TV and this is me all day.
Yeah.
This is morning, night, dinner, sleep. This is, there is no other Craig, and this is not a persona. This is me. And I know speaking openly about my faith when I travel and I talk to people and write and whatever and movies, you get judged, right? You can lose opportunities in the secular world. This guy's a wacko. But I don't care because the amount of opportunities that come my way and the people that I meet, I say there is no other way but this is from God. And the minute I keep looking at that, the people that come my way that want to work with me, I'm like, oh man, this is unbelievable. I mean, listen, I'm to sit down with Martin Sheen and have conversations with these people and go to their houses. And I was just with Annie Ann, who wonderful woman, founder of Annie Ann Pretzels. I mean, to hang out with her and be with her in Texas, and Michael and Dale and these people, like you say, it's God. It's because I've discovered my true purpose, and there's no motive to just I'm going to make all this money. It's about really discovering, fulfilling that purpose, whatever it is, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you talk about finding your purpose, that's a struggle in itself. And a lot of people don't want to put in the work, or they have a hard time putting in the work to understand what your purpose is. And I think that's a lot of what one of my passion projects called The American Benefactor. That's what that whole show is really about. And you see just a lot of people out there that are just lost and they don't understand, or they get caught up in nonsense and a lot of just BS, and they don't kind of do the internal work to understand what their purpose is. And that's where it starts.
Yeah, you are 100% right. And I think, so there's, it's all P's, right? It's passion, purpose, right? What's the other P? I forgot the P. I always forget the other P. I write it and I forget it. But the point is, like, once you discover your purpose, like what I was really called to do, you have to discern, which is just really meditate, reflect, whatever word you want to use. But what happens is you see the end, you see the beginning, but you don't see the middle. So I have no idea I'm going to get there. And then what happens is we want affirmation from people. So I say to you and my mother, hey, I'm thinking about doing this movie. And right away, something negative. Oh, how are you going to do that movie? How are you going to do this? So right away oh man, we don't want to share it, right? But if you have clarification that this is what I was really called to do, and you have to be truthful with yourself. I don't need affirmation from anyone. I don't have to share with anyone what I'm doing. I really don't care if people agree or disagree. If I know this is what I'm called to do. But it's a long journey. And then what happens is the voice, the enemy, whatever you want to call it, the insecurity, the people, the funds, you lose your job. You're like, oh my God, if this was meant to be, it would happen. Maybe I misheard it. So then you take another opportunity. Before I took this job, right, I had an opportunity, which would have been a lot of money. And I said, let me think about it. I pray about it, I say, but I still sleep on it, as my mother would say. I think about it. And I said, no, because I knew that wasn't part of the plan. That's a distraction. So the point is, if I know this is my platform, like I want to be the guy that you want to talk about faith or your movie, you think of me in a faith-based element or inspiration. I'm that guy. I'm the Catholic Barbara Walters. That's what I am, right? So that's what I say to myself. So that's the goal. Anything that distracts me from that, I don't do it because it's not helping me get to the platform. So when you discover your purpose, and you have to be truthful, if it's about making money, fine, that's your own thing. Most of the time, it's not your true purpose. Your true purpose is to serve, to make a difference, to inspire, and money comes with it. But if I say, I want to go out there and make a lot of money, that's great. I guarantee that's not your true purpose. Your true purpose needs to be something more, to inspire, to bring people to another platform, to help them. That's all part of the purpose, because the purpose is greater than you. It's to serve. And then everything else is sort of a byproduct of discovering that, the money, the wealth, or whatever. But if you stay focused on that, and I think most people, they're looking for the secret, right? I'm reading this book, and there's, I read all those books, and they'll tell you the fast way to make money. And that's great. It doesn't work. And if it does work, you're not going to be happy and fulfilled. But to have true joy and success, which means fulfilling your original assignment, to do that, you have to discover your true purpose. And if it is self-serving, I guarantee it's not. And you'll make money, but you will not be fulfilled.
You have to have the foundation there.
Oh, yeah. And purpose is important. And that's something I talk about every day. And I said, don't have the pre-pandemic mindset in a post-pandemic world. So we have the ability to leave behind everything that we weren't happy with. You see people.
What do you mean by that statement?
Well, because the way we were living prior to COVID, what I worshipped, what I adored, what I thought was so important, in that one moment, it was all taken away, right? Everything stopped. So that gave us time to reflect and say, was I happy at my other job? Was I really following what I was supposed to do, my plan, my purpose? Am I spending my time right? Like I talked about sacrifice. I wrote an article, it was phenomenal, about sacrifice. Was I really sacrificing, or was I following my personal agenda? So I was able to take an inventory of everything we were doing. You see people now, they're leaving their jobs. They're saying, do I really need to commute 4 hours? Do I really need to live in a city? And they realize that what's truly important is your purpose, your family, relationships, because that's all that matters. In the end, all of this means nothing, right? But what happens is we get so brainwashed on what society says, what Kim Kardashian says, what the media says, what happiness is, and we lose sight of what's truly important. What really makes us happy is a relationship, is family, is discovering what you're called to do. The excitement I get from helping people, it's when I interview somebody and talk about their faith, to me, that's like, wow. So all of that is, I think, what's important. So if you go from what you were before COVID, which a lot of us were really chasing money. I mean, you see it on the news, excuse me. If you take that mindset and then use it now, it doesn't work anymore because the world has changed. And hopefully we've changed as people, as humanity, as people coming together, right? We're all brothers and sisters, no matter what we look like. We're all here together to help. And I think you need to think about what you didn't like back then and make that change now before you get back into the system and the rut of society and getting pulled in all these directions.
Yeah, I think that's just a great way of putting it in terms of how the world has changed and how we as human beings have changed since COVID. It really prioritizes what's important in our life. I mean, you get caught up in all this BS, all this nonsense, and then you see, hey, all these people have passed away. They were here one day, they're gone the next.
Yeah.
Like, how did that has to have an effect on society. It has to have an effect on you as an individual. And are you really doing your purpose? Are you really focused on what you should be focused on? Do you really want to take this job or continue with this job?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, do we need to commute 2 hours? Like, we can do a lot of this stuff.
Do I need that extra money, that bigger house with the extra room? And for what? Like, we all want it, but do I need it? But I think the thing is when you start to really be honest with yourself, not about sharing it with people, because you're going to ask people that are going to agree with you just because you want that agreement and affirmation, but that's not truthful. But you got to be truthful and honest with yourself. And then when you start making those decisions, you start cutting things out of your life. I got to cut this one out of my life, or cut this out of my life. And do I really want to do that? It's hard to cut friends, family, or whatever habits out of your life. But if you want to discover and reach your goal, your purpose, without all these distractions, you have to do it. There's no other way. You could buy all those motivational books and go list all of them and you discover the secret. That's just, you're a consumer. You're just buying things, trying to find the easy way. But this lifestyle that you and I are discussing is hard.
There is no easy way.
No, there's no easy way.
It's a lifestyle and it's a mindset.
Yeah. And and just to plug, if you want to save money, stop buying all those books. Everything that they talk about, whether you read the Bible, you don't want to read the Bible, it all comes from that. Everything they talk about is all rooted in that, in daily devotional and Bible. They just write it differently, manipulate it, whatever. But save your money, stop buying all these motivational books, and just follow that one truth that's in the Bible that'll explain to you how to discover your purpose and be fulfilled and happy.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Craig. I really appreciate your time, brother. Check out Walk in Faith, his podcast, really inspirational, and his film, Omerta, The Act of Silence. It is currently on Amazon Prime and other platforms as well. Great film. Highly recommend it. Thanks so much, brother.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate your time. God bless.
Tom Bentey Media, signing off.